So we just released our capital budget, and the capital budget is the budget that deals with construction of things like school buildings and community college facilities and buildings that are four-year universities. It also deals with stormwater pipes and park investment, those sorts of investments. And it's a very targeted budget. It's a thinner budget than usual, and our main focus was really on a few things. One, trying to grow jobs in the near term and invest in those projects that would put people to work. And then secondly, making investments that lay the foundation for economic growth in the long term. As we've been writing our capital budget, it's been clear that there's a couple challenges with regard to how the state currently deals with capital investment. One is the state's basically on a roller coaster with regard to how it makes capital investment. During good times, the state has more capacity to make investments. And unfortunately, those good times are times where our construction industry is usually pretty busy, and our building trades workers are usually pretty busy, and as a consequence, the state ends up paying a premium on those projects, and that's not good for taxpayers. At the trough or in the valley, at times when our economy is most hurting and state investment would be most valued, and frankly at times when we could get the cheapest price for our investments, the state has almost no capacity to make capital investment, and that's a real problem, and it's a problem that we've been grappling with. The other element, the other challenge that we're facing is overall debt. Debt as a percentage of our state's operating budget has continued to climb from 5% before, now up to about 6% of the operating budget. And if the state does nothing, it will now comprise about 7% of our operating budget. Just looking at this upcoming biennium, about $2 billion of the state operating budget is going towards paying debt service. And a lot of that is servicing debt on very important and strategic and valuable projects, but debt service is the first bill that the state pays. Even before it makes its investment in meeting our constitutional obligation, our paramount duty to investing in K-12, even before making other investments in our social safety net or in our public higher education institutions, the state makes its investment in debt service. Just as a point of contrast, in the last 10 years, debt service has just about doubled in dollar terms. And in the operating budget that was just released, our higher education investment is at the level it was in 1987. So debt service is going up, and investment in things like higher education are going down, and that seems backwards. My partner on the capital budget, Linda Parlett, she's my ranking member, the Republican from Wenatchee, and I have worked together to propose a constitutional amendment called the Debt Reduction Act of 2011, and it just passed out of the Senate on a unanimous basis. And that proposal does a few things. First, it moves from historically the way the state has done its capital budgeting. It works on a 3-year averaging to determine the state's debt capacity. That's part of the reason the state's been on this sort of roller coaster with regard to capital investment. So one of the important elements of that proposal is it moves from a 3-year averaging to a 10-year averaging. That gets you out of hitting those peaks and valleys, but it also enables the state to be more strategic and think more long range about the capital investments that the state's making. The other, and this is important, the other key component of the Debt Reduction Act is it lowers the state's debt limit from 9% down to 7%. The impact of that is, over the next 20 years, a savings of about $3.3 billion in our operating budget. You know, it means we'll continue to have a nice, healthy capital budget and make those investments in K-12 facilities and make those investments in critical infrastructure. But it means the state won't sort of max out the credit card during good times, and will free up some capacity in the operating budget for those core priorities of meeting our constitutional obligation to K-12 and maintaining a social safety net for the state's most vulnerable citizens. The constitutional amendment passed unanimously out of the state Senate and will soon receive a hearing in the state House. My hope is that they pass it, and when it does, it'll come before the voters because to amend the state constitution requires a 2/3 vote in both the House and in the Senate. Then it requires the public to ratify that constitutional amendment. So stay tuned. That may be something that folks will be hearing more about in the months ahead.